One's ready. One's ready. Go!
Welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. You're in the team room. This is your daily drop for the 27th of June. It's a busy day here, so I won't give you some crazy ad read other than drinkhoist.com for IV level hydration. Use the promo code upon checkout. If you don't feel like ordering online, hit one of your HEBs, Safeways, Kroger's, or even some of the gas stations have it. Great tasting and no dyes. All right, here's your joint news. The Pentagon formally unveils the $961.6 billion budget for 2026 with reconciliation help. The Defense Department revealed its $962 billion budget request for FY26 to counter Chinese aggression, revitalize the U.S. defense industrial base, and maintain military personnel. The budget includes $184 billion for military construction and a 5-year maintenance plan though funding for long-term initiatives like Golden Dome remains unanswered. $184 billion for military construction, new buildings, maintenance, that kind of stuff. That's probably, I don't say it's probably enough. It's never enough, right? But, okay. So hopefully this budget gets passed instead of a continuing resolution, and then we can actually execute on a budget that if Congress gets off its ass. All right, next. No known intelligence that Iran moved uranium, the U.S. Defense Chief says. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth stated there is no evidence indicating Iran moved highly enriched uranium from sites targeted in the recent U.S. airstrikes. President Trump claimed the sites belong to Iran, while Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Razin Caine deferred to the intelligence community for further assessment. That's going back to what I was talking about yesterday with BHA, battle hit assessment, versus BDA, battle damage assessment. Like, we know we hit it, right? That's for certain. It's the damage assessment. Was it destroyed? Is it enough destroyed that they're delayed 5 years, 10 years? Is it completely destroyed, or was it ineffective entirely? So that is where we need to rely on the intelligence community to provide that. All right, next. Joint Chiefs Chairman supplies new details about the MOP bomb attack on Iranian nuclear sites. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Cain, I'm just going to call him Razin Caine from now on, described the use of the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapon programmed to detonate at a predetermined depth in airstrikes on Iranian nuclear sites. The operation targeted facilities like Fordo, causing significant damage from the overpressure and blast effects. Next, 15 years of incredible work. Oh, let me go back to that real quick. You guys check it out. Shout out to Razin Caine. Not that he needs a shout out from me. I mean, like, who the hell am I? But the fact that he said, hey, I can assure you that the weapons school doesn't have sand volleyball courts, or he said something to the effect referencing weapons school having volleyball courts, and that we don't have them, and nor would we use them. So it was pretty funny, considering that, Top Gun is, at least the first one, is all about the volleyball courts and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Anyway, I thought it was funny. Maybe you go, dude, get over it. You're an idiot, which is also correct. Next, 15 years of incredible work. The inside story of the mission to bomb Iran's nuclear sites. Planning for the U.S. airstrikes on Iran's Fordo nuclear facility began in 2009 with Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA, analyzing the site after construction photos emerged. Razin Caine noted the mission involved a multi-layer underground bunker complex targeting Iran's potential nuclear weapon development. Yeah, we didn't throw this together in 48 hours. We've been planning this for years. That's pretty normal. Next, was U.S. Air Force General Razin Caine pressured by Trump or Hegseth on Iran strike? Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Razin Caine dismissed speculation about pressure from President Donald Trump or Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth regarding his assessment of the U.S. airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Caine emphasized his role is to provide options and risks to the president, not to dictate specific actions. And that is a true statement. The Pentagon to set up 2 more military buffer zones near border in Arizona and Texas. The Department of Defense will establish 2 additional national defense areas along the U.S.-Mexico border, including a 250-mile stretch in Arizona. Troops in these zones will conduct detection, monitoring, and temporary detention of trespassers, following a federal judge's ruling on immigration. All right, that was joint news. This is Air Force news. Air Force budget focuses on stealth bomber, ICBMs, and new fighter, limits new F-35s, and retires the A-10. The Air Force's FY26 or fiscal year 2026 budget requests increased by 13.5%, prioritizing the B-1 Raider, the Sentinel ICBMs or intercontinental ballistic missiles systems, and F-47 next-generation air dominance fighter, while reducing F-35 purchases. The budget also retires the A-10 Thunderbolt II fleet and maintains air superiority, though it struggles to keep pace with inflation. So I can get down on the F-35 reduction. I can't get down on the A-10 retirement. On the F-35 side of the house, though, like, I don't know. I can also view that as the 6th generation, or I'm sorry, the 5th generation of the F-16. Like, and I know they're 2 different aircrafts, right? But we used to have an insane amount of F-16s because they were kind of the blue-collar workhorse of the fighter community, for the combat Air Force. And that doesn't mean that, like, the A-10 wasn't also the blue-collar worker, because it most certainly was. But when you start talking about all the different roles that the F-16 had, like, it was pretty impressive, everything that it did. And it didn't do everything great, but it did everything well enough. So, I don't know, maybe the F-35 could be that. Maybe not, but it looks like the F-47 next-generation air dominance fighter is going to take precedence over that. Next, Air Force cancels E-7 Wedgetail, citing survivability and cost concerns. The Air Force has canceled the E-7 Wedgetail program due to survivability and cost issues, shifting focus to space-based capabilities. The decision reduces funding from $588 million to $724 million, with plans to enhance the E-2D Hawkeye system and develop space-based AMTI by the early 2030s. So this is probably going to upset quite a few people that are in the command and control community, but I kind of agree with this. An airborne command and control used to be a feasible option. But when we start talking about the next generation of warfare, and if we're really focused on the Pacific, that is going to be one of the first aircraft that they try and shoot down, to which now we've got to provide aircraft to protect it while we're providing strike aircraft to do offensive counter-air, defensive counter-air, and strike, targets deep into enemy territory. Like, it's just, where space-based, it is a lot better. But are we there yet? Like, I don't know if we're there yet. Obviously we're not, since it said that early 2030s. So, but early 2030s is right around the corner. Next, Air Force revives ARRW hypersonic missile with procurement plans for fiscal year 2026. The Air Force is resuming the development of the AGM-183 Alpha air-launched rapid response weapon, allocating $387 million for FY26 procurement. The program was reinstated in March of 2024 after testing setbacks, with Chief of Staff General David Alvin describing it as a strategic long-range asset. Next, B-2 bomber crews identified an Iranian strike. Razin Caine identified the crews involved in Operation Midnight Hammer, noting their teamwork in the successful strike. The operation involved over 125 aircraft covering 7,000 miles over 37 hours, targeting Iranian nuclear facilities. Yeah, they did a great job. Absolutely. And I'll continue to praise them. Air Force Academy cadets arrive for basic training, encouraged to cultivate intensity and encourage. Over 1,000 young men and women arrived at the Air Force Academy for basic cadet training, which now includes a year-end culminating exercise. Commandant of the cadets, Brigadier General Gavin Marks, encouraged cadets to build resilience and intensity. Okay, that's weird. I mean, there's not much context to that, so we'll see if more comes out about that. Or is the Air Force Academy cadets lacking in? They must have been seeing a trend of lack of resilience and lack of intensity for them to come out and say that, and for public affairs to actually mention it in their message. Let's see. Next, newcomers to Air Base in South Korea learn "Fight Tonight" is more than a slogan. Airmen at Osan Air Base, South Korea, underwent combat readiness exercises to prepare for potential conflict with North Korea. The training, led by Tech Sgt. Hector Montoya, covers weapons familiarization, medical care, and radio communications. Dude, finally, an enlisted, especially a Tech Sergeant, NCO out there getting a shout out from Public Affairs, the Department of the Air Force Public Affairs. Like, right on. Good job, dude. DoD agency IDs remains of 3 airmen killed at secret Laos radar site in 1968. The Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency identified the remains of 3 airmen killed in Laos during the Vietnam War, overrun by North Vietnamese commandos. The radar site used by B-52's bombers was located near the North Vietnam border, complicating military operations. Space Force news. Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill would give Space Force nearly $40 billion budget. The Space Force could receive $40 billion in FY26 under the Defense Department budget proposal, a 30% increase from the current budget. Because current budget, they were getting 5% of the DoD spending bill, which is not very much considering they're going to space. The funding includes $25 billion for the Golden Dome Missile Defense Initiative, though failure of the reconciliation package would reduce it to $3 billion. See, there you go. All right, of interest, at the NATO Summit at The Hague, Ukraine takes a back seat. President Vladimir Zelensky took a back seat during the NATO Summit at The Hague, with discussions focusing on member defense spending increases to 5% of the GDP. We talked about that yesterday in our foreign aid discussion and in the daily drop from yesterday. President Trump did not confirm continued U.S. support for Ukraine, highlighting Zelensky's ongoing battle. And lastly, this is an opinion piece. Split to win, why the Air Force must become 4 services. Retired Army Major General John Ferrari argues the Air Force should split into 4 services, each focused on a specific domain, following the creation of Space Force. He suggests this restructuring is necessary to address tactical air superiority, strategic strike, and airlift challenges. Sir, with all due respect, General Ferrari, I completely disagree with you. And I got it, like I'm only looking at this from just a quick blurb, but when you start, like, all that's going to do is add more bureaucracy and more chains of command and more chances for things to slip through the cracks. That's just my 2 cents, but what am I now? I'm a stupid enlisted guy, right? But I've also been doing the mission and seen a lot of stuff in the way things work and how dysfunctional a lot of stuff is, the more and more bureaucratic bullshit you guys put into this. And you know what? It's not all officers, because there is certainly some enlisted that do that, but it is mostly officers. So for the Air Force cadets that are listening to this right now, because I know you guys do, don't be one of those officers that wants to add more bureaucracy to things and make things more difficult. All right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We appreciate you being here. We're out. Later.